Natasha.
Debbie.
Show.
The show.
Welcome to it. Just two patriotic girls.
Learning about the world.
So please, don't take us the wrong way.
Natasha's Grooming 101. Bigger hair. Bigger hair.
I started the video.
Turn.
Hi. We're just going to start it
There
like
you
this. How's it look?
You have big hair.
This is so I won't touch it during the video to drive you guys crazy.
Big hair.
Get up on those cushions. Get on Mountain Debbie. She got 5 cushions.
I
I
got
may
a
have
couple.
hair issues, but she's got height issues. That's why she's how tall you are.
I got set up even straighter. Look at that.
How's your butt feeling?
It's very cushy.
Hey, how's yours feeling? Let us know how your bum feels in your seat right now. If it's not cushy, be like Debbie and sit on. I counted them.
Grab
5.
another cushion.
She's got 5 cushions to try to get to my height. I have this little tiny thing. Hey guys, welcome to the show. That's the Natasha and Debbie show if you didn't know. And if you didn't know, I don't know what you're doing here. But welcome.
It's actually a show on cushions.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. It's about
And hair.
bum comfort.
Big hair and cushions.
My hair's not big. It's just there.
You said you weren't going to touch it.
Oh, damn it. Now I've ruined the whole episode. Hey guys, we're going to learn something really cool today that we don't know anything about. That's kind of a thing we do.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do that, I'd like to ask you a favor. Hit the like button. That's it. That's my favor.
And also consider subscribing, but please check out some of our other content to make sure you want to be a part of this crazy, fun family channel.
Thing. We haven't said that in a while.
I know we haven't.
Yeah. Well, we figured you probably knew that by now. So the Channel Tunnel. That's what we're here for. Playing since 1802 is the title of this video. What? I don't know anything about the Channel Tunnel. Never seen it. Don't know nothing about it. Nothing at all. Except it goes to France from England. That's it. That's why I wore the
I
shirt.
just can't believe how in 1802 they had been planning on building a tunnel
Is that really what?
under the water to get.
It's under the water?
Well,
Oh, yeah, I
no
guess so.
land.
Yeah. Wow. I just had a blonde moment. I knew that. I did know that. I don't know anything else about it.
And it has always amazed me how they built bridges back then. So how were they? I mean, I don't even know how you build a tunnel under
Well,
the water.
I think we're going to find that out.
That's safe enough for cars. Yeah, I think we are, but it just boggles my mind. Just putting it out.
Well, let's unboggle our minds.
Let's unboggle.
And get our bums comfy. Are you good, Miss 5 Cushions?
I am.
Let us know in the comments again. How is your bum? We really want to know. And if it's like she said, if it's not comfy, please get it comfy. And let's learn about the Channel Tunnel together, if you don't already know.
Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mega Projects. This one is all about the Channel Tunnel, also known as the Chunnel. This is one I'm particularly keen on. I
Chunnel?
remember when
Channel.
this, I don't
like
remember
it.
when it first opened, but I do remember the first time that I took it, went on a day trip to France with my family. It was pretty cool. Let's just jump in.
Can I just say for a minute though, the thought of a day trip to France is just like,
It's insane.
an American mind can't comprehend that.
Mhm.
Unless you're rich and famous and have your private jet.
Yeah.
Which I left mine.
Pop on over to France for an afternoon.
It's crazy.
Forget America and Russia, forget even America and China. One of history's most famous rivalries lies between two countries separated by only a slither of water, just 21 miles at its closest point. That's 33.7 kilometers for you Europeans. Two countries that have engaged in battle time and again over nearly 1,000 years and whose empires dominated vast swaths of the planet. But these old enemies have mellowed with age, and on the 1st of December 1990, something extraordinary happened. Two faces appeared either side of a small hole in a rough rock wall face. One man clutched the Union Jack of the United Kingdom and the other clutched the French tricolor. They both smiled and shook hands, and the Channel Tunnel was born. Well, not quite. I mean, that was a really tiny hole. It still had a long way to go. And I'm sure, as we will find out, it took way longer and ran over budget. Because this is Mega Projects. Tunnels can be a bit difficult to get excited about. We made a video about the world's deepest hole, which somehow got 100 and something thousand views so far. I don't think we're too worried about that. We can't see them from the outside, and even when
cockiness
we are in
is not
one, it's
becoming
hard
of you
to
there,
register
Simon.
its scale and size. But they are some of the most labor-intensive projects we have ever undertaken. While you may delight in the fact that you can board a train in London and disembark in Paris 2 hours and 15 minutes later, it is the 35 minutes of near darkness underground that we really should be marveling at. And just a quick note here before we get started, while the majority of trains run between London and Paris, there are services that connect the British capital with Lille, Brussels and Amsterdam. There are also seasonal services that run further south in France, but let's get back to the tunnel because that's where we're focusing today. In total, the Channel Tunnel is 31.35 miles, that's 50.45 kilometers long, which isn't actually long enough to even make it into the top 10 longest tunnels in the world, but this is the longest underwater tunnel on the planet and also the longest international tunnel.
You ever been in a underwater tunnel? I have not.
Can't say that I have, no.
I mean, not in a car. I haven't.
Okay.
That's for Patreon. Would you go?
Heck yeah.
Oh, it scares me.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea.
Yep, I'll be right there.
I'm
go.
more of a land girl.
Take my day trip to France to get some croissants in the morning.
Croissants? Croissant? I can't say that.
And when I was a kid, I really thought that it went through the ocean rather than under the ocean. As an adult, obviously, I know that's a bit dumb. I was disappointed when I went in it and I couldn't look out the window at the sea. And it isn't just one tunnel, it's actually three. There are two 7.6 meter, 25-foot diameter tunnels built 30 meters, 95 feet apart, used by the trains, and a 4.8 meter, 16-foot service tunnel running between for maintenance and emergencies. These tunnels are then connected with pairs of 3.3 meter, 11-foot diameter passageways from both main tunnels to the service tunnel every 375 meters. That's every 1,230 feet.
Thank you
At
for
its
the feet.
deepest, the tunnel is 70 meters, 230 feet below the water.
Really?
And to give you a wonderfully French comparison here, that's about 107 baguettes end to end. Why don't we just do everything in baguettes? Then we don't have to worry about the metric imperial conversion. Easy, and the French will love it. Now, if this wasn't complicated enough, consider that digging was done from both ends simultaneously. Speed was the main reason for this, but I also suspect that neither of these great nations would have accepted the project just going one way. It required a symbolic act somewhere in the middle, and when they finally met, they were just 50 centimeters off the planned meeting point, well within the parameters required. Engineering is amazing.
What is with him today?
Hey, could you imagine?
In this video, he's being so weird.
That is pretty amazing that they were so close. I mean, dig it from one end to the other, and the chances of actually meeting exactly in the middle, because they're off. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And nice to know that there are service tunnels every so often that go both sides. That way, in case something happens in one,
Yeah,
you can escape to the other.
That's all I'm thinking about is you. I'm not going up in high towers and things like that and looking down, and I'm not going under the ocean. I'm going to stay on land where God put me until I die.
And
That's
you're
depressing.
in the rock underneath the
I
ocean.
don't care. No, I'm good. Is it a
We know
long
that
road?
the first part of this tunnel was
a
finally
long
connected in 1990, but incredibly by that point, the idea of a channel tunnel was nearly 190 years old.
Is that
A
true,
Frenchman
really?
by the name of Albert Mathieu Favier was the first to outline a plan in 1802, and I apologize, Albert, if I'm mispronouncing your name there. But instead of
Albert.
trains like we see today, Favier envisions that the journey would be made by horse-drawn carriage with an artificial island midway that would allow for a change of horse. While his plans really didn't get anywhere, this was an idea that popped up continuously
Innovator.
from then until 1964 when both governments finally agreed to it. Although I doubt in 1964 we were thinking, yeah, we should do it with horses, because we had cars. Famously, in 1881, perhaps frustrated by their government's lackadaisical approach, a group of independently minded engineers thought they would give it a go. But this was no shovel and spade outfit. Sir Edward Watkin and Alexandre Lavallee, a Frenchman who had worked on the Suez Canal, formed the Anglo-French Submarine Railway Company. This sounds like Elon Musk's back in the day. Their efforts were seen as exploratory, but they certainly gave it a good go. By the time the project was scrapped in 1882, a tunnel from Shakespeare Shakespeare Cliffs near Dover had tunneled 1,893
Wow.
meters, 6,211 feet, while on the French side at Sangatte, 1,669 meters, 5,476 feet had been dug. But in the end, political pressure put paid to their efforts. The problem was neither side really quite trusted the other, and this was an issue that constantly dogged the project. Napoleon had dominated the European continent in the early decades of the 19th century, and while his progress had ended with the emperor being banished to a distant Atlantic island, the British still had a bit of a distrust of their Gaelic neighbours across the Channel, and this was a suspicion more than reciprocated by the French. So in short, it was really just a case of too soon. As the idea was brought up again and again, it was often military leaders who raised objections to the project. They were seemingly certain that a tunnel would enable enormous invading armies to one day simply saunter through the tunnel. Even the compromise of a system where both sides could...
No, but I can see that, though. But I can understand the thought process. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But if you're going to take an army, you're not just going through a tunnel.
Get the thought process.
Yeah,
I say it's going to happen. Yeah, I get the thought
too.
process of the fear, the mentality of the time, right?
Yeah.
Paranoia and all that too, but also just the history between the two. So I get
Definitely.
it. I get it.
effectively flood the entire tunnel, failed to settle suspicions. Nope, it would take the most horrific war the world had ever known to finally calm their fears and push the project forward. A bond already strengthened during World War I was cemented in the aftermath of World War II, two wars in which the British and the French had fought side by side. Interestingly, rumours had circulated during the war that Hitler was using slave labour to dig a tunnel under the Channel. One military analyst went as far as to estimate that it could theoretically be completed in just 18 months.
Really?
Obviously, he was wrong.
Well, yeah,
By 1964, it looked like things were finally beginning to come together. A detailed geographic survey was undertaken, and the two governments finally agreed to greenlight the project, with preliminary work beginning in 1974. And it lasted less than a year. In 1975, the new Labour government, operating under a severe economic crisis, pulled the plug, much to the dismay of the French. The British were already 300 metres, 958 feet into an experimental dig, but this tunnel would eventually be recycled and used to form part of the modern tunnel. The cost of the cancellation to the British government was in the region of $16 million.
And it'd be a lot.
Back in the day dollars. So that is a lot more today.
Yeah. Oh wow, that was back
then.
then.
Things were back on, but with Margaret Thatcher's government refusing to fund the project through taxpayer money, it was opened up to private investments, and by 1985 a short list of ideas had emerged. But strangely, many of them now drifted away from the original tunnel idea. The first was very similar to what we have today, but perhaps slightly simplified. The second came to be known as Eurobridge. Yes, you guessed it, this would be a 22-mile, 35-kilometer suspension bridge with a roadway and an enclosed tube. I mean, that sounds slightly less practical and more complicated to build, but that would be epic. Thirdly was Euroroute, which called for artificial islands to be created in the channel, which would then be connected by a series of bridges. Also epic, but in fact digging a tunnel under the sea is kind of more epic than all of these. Lastly, there was the Channel Expressway, which would be a tunnel, but one that you could drive independently through with ventilation towers midway.
Okay, so pretend you don't have the Channel Tunnel. What would you prefer? Any of those other options? Or are you happy with what it is? They're all cool ideas. I would have expected more of a suspension bridge, kind of like Golden Gate Bridge kind of thing. You know? But yeah, that would look cool.
That is a long way to go.
It's a long way to go.
22 miles.
Yeah, it's a long way to go.
That is.
30 some miles, wasn't it?
31, but then he was saying 22, so.
Yeah, I don't know. But either way, I just curious if you would have preferred a different alternative. Just let us know.
Now, perhaps some of those seem a little far-fetched, but at that time, even a railway under the Channel seemed like a lofty idea. Margaret Thatcher was a great proponent of car usage within the tunnel as it provided a more individual experience, but this was always seen as overly ambitious, not simply in terms of ventilation, but also on safety grounds. There was also fierce opposition to the project from a group who would certainly not benefit from a Channel tunnel. Any guesses on that one? Well, it wasn't the military this time. It was the guys running the ferries across the Channel. FlexiLink, a global lobby formed by several ferry companies, protested against the plans, especially in the 1980s. They, of course, didn't come out and say they didn't want it because it would ruin their business. No, of course, it was cleverly designed as an issue about British sovereignty and keeping Britain an island. Kind of sounds like the Brexit argument, doesn't it? But it didn't work. In
Staying away from
1987,
that.
voting on the project passed in both the French and British governments. One little point to highlight here, while the French passed it unanimously, there were still holdouts within the British government. Promises of regional Eurostar trains to other parts of Britain certainly helped to sway votes, but they were promises that were never kept. Classic politics.
Isn't it always, though? So I have a question.
Always.
Did you hear about any of this when it was happening? Because I did not. And I, paid attention to world news. I'm like, because of our age difference. So I was at
there's
home
your
with my
answer.
parents.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't hear.
I'm actually surprised you
I mean, it
hadn't.
might have. I don't remember.
I don't know how I didn't.
don't remember.
My parents were always watching the news, and I was always around paying attention. My mom would tell me stuff, that happened. And, oh, hey, they're building this bridge. Sorry, tunnel.
Nope, I wasn't paying attention. Put it out there. Was not.
Digging begins for the 15th
Construction
time.
of the Channel Tunnel officially began on the French side in June 1988, with the British
Wow.
leisurely kicking into gear 6 months later in December. It must be said that the challenges faced by the French in terms of digging at least were greater than on the British side. Considering how close they are,
Really?
you might be excused for thinking that their geology would be basically the same,
No,
but
not
that's
necessarily.
not really true. Both sides were aiming to tunnel through chalk marl, a relatively kind substance if you want to build a 31-mile, 50-kilometer tunnel. However, the French side contained a higher concentration of microcracks, causing more water to enter and thus
Oh,
making the
no.
whole substance much more difficult to tunnel through. But the French had a plan. Rather than simply starting the tunnel from the terminal point in Calais, French engineers built a huge shaft close to the sea, 55 meters, 180 feet in diameter, and 65 meters deep, about as tall as a 20-story house, and it was a space large enough to place the entire Arc de Triomphe in. And
Good
that's
Lord.
really big. From
Yes.
here, they began tunneling in two directions, one towards their inland terminal and the other towards the UK. In total, the digging was undertaken by 11 tunnel boring machines, or TBMs, weighing just
Good
over
gosh.
1,000 tons each.
Huge.
Their combined weight was more than that of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh
the
my
diameter of
gosh.
those used in the two main tunnels was 7.6 meters, 25 feet, and they extended to about the length of a football pitch. If you remember from one of our previous videos on the Crossrail project
I
in
do
and
not,
around
sorry,
London,
sorry.
the British named their TBMs after famous British women, but this wasn't the case during the Channel Tunnel excavation, with some rather
That's
generic
insanity.
alphanumeric titles given. The French, however, were a little more inventive, and the vast mechanical machines boring from the French side came to be known as Brigitte, Europa, Catherine, Virginie, Pascaline, and Séverine. Tunneling took 2 years to complete and pulled out a staggering 4.9 million cubic meters, that's 173 million cubic
Thank
feet
you.
of chalk marl and shale. While the vast majority of it was done using the TBMs, some of the more delicate sections needed to be excavated by hand using smaller pneumatic drills.
Dumb question. What do you do with all that?
I was just thinking that. And I'm like, did they build a mountain? Because you could take all that and make a mountain.
No,
and it'd
you
be
could
like-
make one of those fake island
It's the
things.
Channel Mountain.
Channel Island.
Or you could make an island out there.
That's what I said first.
Yeah, you could. But I'm talking like on land. You make a mountain out of it.
What do they do with it? Do you guys know? Do you know? Is he going to tell us? Should we stop pausing and find out? Yeah, let's do that. I don't think he's going to tell us.
Another surprising point is that the tunnels are neither straight nor level. A decision was
What?
made to try and stay within the chalk marl as much as possible, as it was much easier to excavate, but this meant slight alterations here and there. Sitting on a train, travelling through, it's almost impossible to feel the slight curves, but they are actually there. Sadly, this feat did come at a human cost, and 10 workers lost their lives during construction, mostly in the early stages.
Damn.
While the world knows the 1st of December 1990 as the day the two sections of the service tunnel finally met, that's not entirely accurate. In fact, some 31 days earlier, on the 30th of October, a tiny hole was created to connect the two tunnels. At just 2 inches, 5 centimeters in diameter, it didn't carry the same kind of excitement as what was to come, but it was important nonetheless. Maybe they just stick like a little tiny cocktail stick flag through. On December the 1st, 1990, the world watched in anticipation as
I did not
Englishman
watch
Graham
that.
Fag and Frenchman Philippe Cazette managed to reach through the now enlarged hole. The two had been chosen randomly from the workers on the project, and it added a sense of togetherness that it wasn't politicians or executives in front of the cameras, but rather two men who had quite literally sweated to help reach this incredible feat. It was a testament to the 13,000 people who had participated in the construction.
Yeah.
Bonjour, mon ami, the Englishman said. Hello, my friends. Welcome to France, came the French response. The two reached through to shake hands and exchanged their flags. The moment, immortalized on television, has become iconic to both Britain and France, a symbol not only of an engineering wonder, but one of friendship and one of cooperation. If you're wondering why Philippe Cazette said, "Welcome to France," well, it's because the tunnels hadn't actually met halfway. The British side had tunneled slightly further than the French. This has never been completely explained, but probably lies with the more difficult geology on the French side.
Right. Part 2. Big Day Revisited.
Despite the euphoria that greeted the meeting undergrounds, the project wasn't even remotely finished. In fact, it was over 4 years later, on May the 6th, 1994, that two trains met nose to nose in Calais. One had travelled through the tunnel from London and carried Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, wow.
The other had come from Paris with French President François Mitterrand on
That's
board.
cool.
A ceremony in Calais was followed by the same in Folkestone, with the Queen and the President travelling aboard a train through the tunnel from France to the United Kingdom for the first time. Though passengers did not begin travelling for several months, the first freight train rumbled through the tunnel on the 1st of June 1994. There are two main ways that you can use this service.
I was just going to ask, can you walk? I'm going to go with that's a lot of walking.
Probably not walking.
I just want to walk in for like a mile and come back out.
Just want to ride your bike.
I'm not Freddie Mercury here. I just want to walk in for a mile, walk back out. And he's saying there's two ways. I'm going to guess that that would be train and car, not walking.
I think.
Not bicycling.
Passengers can embark at any of the destination terminals: London, Paris, Lille, Brussels and Amsterdam, but also at Ashford and Ebbsfleet in the UK and Calais in France, which are the closest stations either end of the tunnels. This service is known as the Eurostar. The Eurotunnel is used between Folkestone and Calais and carries only freight and automobiles and takes just 35 minutes, depositing you easily on the road systems of either Britain or France. The Eurostar trains are 402 metres, 1,318 feet long, and can carry a total of 900 passengers, roughly double what a jumbo jet can hold. With a full complement on board, the train would weigh 980 tons. That's about 77 double-decker buses. On the British side, at least, it's also a record breaker. On the 30th of June 2003, a Eurostar reached 160 miles per hour, 257 kilometres an hour, which was a UK train speed record. The Eurotunnel trains, known as Le Shuttle, much larger at 800 metres, 2,624 feet in length, the size of 7 football pitches, and they're 4.2 metres, 14 feet across. Passenger vehicles are carried in car shuttles, which are accessed by driving on and off. Freight trains work on a separate service completely, which is in fact semi-open, meaning that the carriages aren't entirely enclosed. Lorries are manoeuvred on board, and then the drivers have an area known as the club car where they can wait during the trip.
Oh, that's cool. So you can take your own car, just drive it onto the...
It's fair to say that
train.
it hasn't been an easy ride for the Channel Tunnel. Today, on average, around 60,000 people travel through the tunnel each day, with around 4,600 lorries, 140 coaches, 7,300 cars using the service. Impressive numbers, yes, but overall, since its launch, the numbers have been lower than anticipated.
Why did I know he was going to say that?
The rise of budget airlines proved a serious competitor to Eurostar that can sometimes equate to several times the cost. However, numbers have risen steadily in terms of foot passengers, at least. In 2004, nearly 3 million people used the service, while in 2018, that number hit 11 million. So, the Channel Tunnel has seen a number of serious incidents since its opening. 6 fires have occurred, either on the trains or within the tunnels themselves, the most serious of which happened on the 11th of September 2008, leading to several passengers requiring medical assistance for smoke inhalation.
That does sound
familiar. The fire
familiar.
caused £60 million in damage and meant full service did not resume for another 5 months. On the 18th of December 2009, during a colder than normal winter, snow on the outside of the trains melted within the tunnel, eventually causing a massive power failure. 5 London-bound trains ground to a halt inside, trapping 2,000 passengers on board, some for as long as 16 hours.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah,
Nope.
that part would be.
See? Claustrophobic.
It happens.
Trap me underground, under the ocean for 6. No. I am running out of there and getting out.
You would run out?
Okay, I can't.
Somehow.
I'm not gonna run. We bet me, have we not? I'm gonna walk slowly at a nice, brisk pace. That's horrendous, and I hope those people
That
are
would be
okay.
scary.
Yeah.
This was the first time that the service tunnel had been used for an evacuation. The tunnel has also become embroiled in a deeper controversy surrounding illegal immigration. Almost as soon as it opened, the tunnel attracted illegal immigrants or would-be asylum seekers looking for a way into the UK. By 1997, sufficient numbers of people had built up in Calais for the Red Cross to open a camp in an old abandoned warehouse that had been used during construction. The camp, known as Sangatte, swelled quickly, and by 2001 there were almost 1,500 people living in it. In 2015, that number had doubled, with authorities stating that between January and July, 37,000 people had been intercepted either trying to enter the tunnel or transportation vehicles heading into it. This has led to the deaths of 9 migrants, as well as a van driver in 2017 who was killed after his van hit a roadblock erected by protesters blocking an auto route leading to the tunnel near Calais.
Not necessary. Modern wonder of the world. Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
In 1994, the American Society of Civil Engineers compiled a list of what they believed were the 7 wonders of the modern world, highlighting the greatest civil engineering achievements of the 20th century.
Yeah, we did that.
And there was only one tunnel that made it onto the list.
The tunnel.
The Channel Tunnel will rightly be regarded as one of the most important projects of the last century, a mammoth undertaking nearly 200 years in the imagination that pushed human endeavor further to its limits and further than some had ever thought possible.
I
But it
agree.
was one made all the more astonishing by the fact that this was a joint venture between those 2 eternally quarreling cousins. Over 8,000 years ago, it would have been possible to walk from Britain to France over frozen ice. As temperatures rose, those 2 pieces of land, which would eventually go on to form countries, were separated. There they remained, so close, but yet so far, until 1990, when an Englishman and a Frenchman shook hands through a small hole 70 meters
That's kind of funny.
beneath the waves.
I think that's seriously one of the coolest, most mind-boggling, feats of inventions. Because, I mean, I remember now we saw a clip at one of our other videos, something, don't have a clue what video that was, where they were driving into the tunnel. But it is, if you think about it in your head, there is a tunnel that goes into the ocean from one country to another country. It's just incredible. And then seeing those big giant thingies, that's the official title for what those are called.
Gills.
Yeah, those things. Those absolutely shocked me and blew my mind. I want a whole video on just those.
It's incredible.
Those were amazing. Those were amazing.
Massive. But yeah, I mean, obviously you need something that big to dig through all that rock. And to see that they kept pushing forward, even though having problems. And it's kind of interesting how England just kind of started their tunnel, just go for it. And France decided to put that big thing in the middle and then go both ways.
Yeah.
Which was probably what they needed to do, obviously, if they were having such problems with the land.
Stuff.
Yeah.
If you did like this, please hit the like button. We'd appreciate it. And consider subscribing to the channel. It's free. I'm sure a lot of people watching have driven through it or have been on it or a train, whatever. You know what I mean? You've been on the dang tunnel.
Yeah, taking the tunnel.
Not been on it.
The channel tunnel.
I'm having a hard time with my words today. Yeah, you've been through it. And if you have, let us know what it's like. Would I freak out? Would I?
I don't think you would.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. We hope you had a good time and learned some stuff today. It's always great to learn about stuff that I should have known when it was happening. But hey, give me a break. I was born in 81. I was a child when this was going down. But thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, please love like Jess.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Bye.
Bye.